What is up, everybody? Thanks for tuning in to Channel 99 today. It's another great episode of Testimonies with Tim. This is our final episode of Season 1. Parker is passing the torch onto Melody, who is our Season 2 host, and she brings a different dynamic to the mix, and I'm excited to see where this goes. We have a wonderful episode. Parker goes into some amazing biblical information as well as Melody. I'm completely blown away the whole time, and I actually say a prayer at the end. Hallelujah. First one in a while, but make sure you subscribe, give us 5 stars, pass this episode along, and have a blessed, most wonderful rest of your day.
Shut up and sit down.
Jesus thing.
Jesus thing.
The
What's up,
Jesus
everybody? Thanks for tuning in to Channel 99. We really appreciate your support. We have back in the studio Melody.
Hey.
We've taken a little bit of a hiatus. I was out of town for a few weeks, and life is busy. These individuals, Parker.
What's up?
Yeah, Season 1 host. We are going to be doing a little chit-chat. These reverting back to why we took a hiatus, these two individuals recently graduated their internship.
We did.
And Parker's going to talk about his next steps, and Melody and so forth, and then they'll kind of just
We're going to hash it out.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be good.
I'm pretty excited.
There's nothing to actually hash. We're doing great.
Yeah.
We're not doing hash, but we're going to talk about...
We're not going to talk about hash either.
No, but we're going to just talk
But we're
about
cool.
what God's doing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Parker, first of all, thank you so much for getting me connected with the podcast. I've kind of fell in love with it. It really surprised me. And then you so graciously decided to hand it over, and I was hoping that you would just kind of grant your blessing over it. I really think that you did a great job bringing it into the world, and I'm looking forward to taking care of it now and adopting it into my life.
Yeah.
So anyways, I'm hoping that you can just kind of give some explanation as to why you felt the need to pass it on, you know, and that you're okay with it, and that you're going to come back because we love you.
Yeah. Well, this whole experience has been very unique. I love public speaking. It took me, 6, 7, 8 podcasts to tell my story. And then me and Tim decided, we need to bring people on. Let's make this something about, these testimonies. There's a power in testimonies. And you were the first person I thought of. And it was awesome. You crushed it. And it was just clear to me that it needed to be passed on to somebody that was going to take it to a level that I couldn't even see. I mean, you have such giftings, Melody, to see
Thank you.
Almost beyond the future. I mean, you almost don't even know what you know about stuff. Like, you literally experience it as it goes. And that's the unique thing about podcasts is people have the opportunity to say what they want to say, and then they say more.
Yeah.
More than they even were ready to talk about.
This well of knowledge.
Yeah, and I just feel
up.
it right now. I got a little bit of tingles when I just said that. Tim, you just bring it out of me.
Yeah.
You always do. I am very adaptive to who I'm speaking to.
Same.
Chameleon, you could say. I'm a salesman. I will adapt to who I'm around. Sometimes, you need to be expressive because someone needs to come out of their shell, or you need to calm down because they aren't going to handle that. And I don't always notice it, but all of a sudden I realize, wow, I'm talking a certain way, and it's because of that specific person in the room is pulling it out of me. And I've never felt so safe to express myself. When I first did my first podcast, it's surreal. You don't really understand that you're talking to everyone. And especially when you tell your testimony.
Yeah.
In the midst of Testimonies with Tim, I was still dealing with a lot of issues and in the middle of my internship. And I knew there was healing. I knew there was something special coming. So to go from point A to what I feel like is now point B, leading into C, it's special because I got to share my heart. And I listen back to some podcasts and I look at what's just happened in 2 weeks.
Yeah, it's wild.
I have matured and healed and essentially been commissioned to move forward into, let's say, not a different lifestyle, but a life that needs to be controlled for the sake of others.
That's good.
I love
That's
the
good.
youth and I love young people.
Yeah.
And I did not necessarily have good influences when I was younger. And if somebody like me, if somebody like Rob, if somebody like Melody, if somebody like the leaders in our church got me when I was in junior high.
Yeah. I know.
There's so many infinite realities to what could have been. I believe that there's an overall control to the chaos.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you can feel this ability to control your own life, right?
Mm-hmm.
I could just decide right this moment to get up, walk out, and destroy everything around me.
It's one of those things that's like, it's so... I'm thinking of the word sexy. It's like, it's drawing you in with its power. But then you also know it's a little bit scary.
Mm-hmm. It's
like, it's really attractive and cool, and it's got so much potential. And then it's also a little nerve-wracking at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
In the garden, Adam had structure. He had a job. They had everything there.
Yeah.
And the knowledge of good and evil is what caused them to unravel. And they say everyone's born with a sense of good and evil, right? Because we're all offsprings. We're all fruit of Adam and Eve. And when we decide to do the wrong thing, when we know it's wrong, there's a good feeling and a bad result.
Yep.
Every time.
A dichotomy all the time.
And I think that was what this last year, and that's what this next few months, and that's what this future for me, I've been meditating on it the last couple of days. I just got to make a choice.
Yeah.
And people say there's a lot of gray area to stuff. It's black and white. Gray has a little bit of black in it.
See, I'm a believer in gray.
Yeah.
And I love gray. Honestly, it is, kind of like being in the thick of things, and you really have to trust your heart and your compass to navigate the gray. But I'm a big believer in that.
Wow.
I'm not a black and white thinker. I'm really not. I think I actually just watched, some interesting videos recently of some very gray areas, particularly in the realm of sex work and people needing help, therapy. And it's an area, and I'm like, man, I really haven't decided what I think about this. On the one hand, no, I do not like sex work. I don't think it's good. But that's based off of how I think about sex and what I believe sex is. And on the other hand, I do think that therapy, like in the realm of sexuality, is necessary. Because I think about all the problems that I had and all the problems that my friends have had just in that realm. And like, I think that there's a place for it, but I don't know what it is. So that's what kind of makes me put it in that gray area of there's a right way and the wrong way. But I don't think that it's as easy to call it out on what it is.
Would you say that grace lives in the gray?
I think grace lives everywhere.
So grace is beyond gray area. I think that's something people don't understand. It doesn't just, it's not confined to the middle of both.
Yeah.
It engulfs everything.
The whole thing is washed in it.
Yeah. When I think of gray, and that's a great point, sex work for sure. when I think of gray, I think those could be your social constructs, right? Like if you flip somebody off in one country, if you say, the C word, for instance, in the UK, that means my mate, my friend.
Wow.
He's my cunt. But here in America,
and we condemn them for saying it.
Well, we condemn ourselves for saying it because it's not part of our culture. In certain countries, sin is going to be defined many ways. And so, somebody who's been raised one way to think a certain way their entire life, their black and their white and their gray are going to be completely different than somebody else.
Yes.
So I believe that gray, yes, there is death. I mean, not death, but murder. Yeah, that's black.
Yeah, gray is where your culture lives.
Well,
that's where your upbringing lives, your nurture, not your nature.
And those are the things that I believe are what are supposed to test you. Everybody knows. If somebody's never seen a murder or a dead person or anything like that, and they killed somebody as a primal instinct, they wouldn't know that it was a bad thing. They would think that they just did something, because they haven't been told their whole life. Well, I take that back. If you kill somebody, you probably know it's bad no matter what.
Know.
Yeah.
It always comes down to the reason why.
Yeah.
Why did you do it?
Why'd you do it?
The action can always be debated.
No, I disagree. And I'm only saying that it's on my mind because of this whole intention versus outcome and perception. Intention versus perception. So I actually think that perception is more important than intention. Because, look at sexual harassment cases. I actually just did some training at work about this, and that's why it's very easy for me to talk about. I just trained on it. But, when you're looking at a sexual harassment case, you could have told someone, you look amazing in that dress, and, you give them a little squeeze on the shoulder, and you don't necessarily... You're not trying to make a sexual pass on that person, but if they perceive it that way, and then they feel uncomfortable in the work environment, and your presence is starting to bother them because the perception of what your actions have done is affecting that. That's where it becomes more important. I do think that in terms of when you're trying to evaluate internally, obviously intention is more important, but when you're really trying to look at what your role is in the world and how the world should flow, you have to look at perception. And that's something that's really underrated, I think, in our community right now. Everyone wants to say it's my truth, it's my thought process, my life, my this, my that, me. And I'm not saying that it's wrong to take time to do those things, but I do think it's maybe a little bit overdone right now, because it's getting to the point where it's okay, so if you think that this is okay and it's hurting, your friends or your family, we're supposed to just accept it.
But how can you define hurt?
I don't think so. I think hurt is measured by
it's opinion by the person.
Well, and whether or not you have a desire to when you have a thorn in your thumb or something, your body is naturally trying to push it out.
Okay. And
when you have a thorn in your mind, your mind is naturally trying to push it out. So I think that's where hurt is kind of coming from. It's like an allergy. You detect that it's foreign and uncomfortable and something just isn't right. It's not homeostasis. So you're trying to push it away from you, something that is telling you, I need to get away from this. That's kind of how fear is. You see it and you're like, fight or flight. Am I going to destroy this right now, or am I just going to run away from it because I can't handle being near it?
Can you trust fear? Because I think we all felt fear when we first went to church. I had fear for the wrong reasons. I feared things that I did not have information about.
I'm not saying you can't be wrong. Excuse me. No. We can all be wrong
because
all the time.
It's so crazy how we just got on this topic because this sums up my intern career. I had so many hurts because I was molested as a child. Yeah. I grew up with ADHD. Nobody ever understood me. Nobody ever listens to me. Rough. I was told that I was schizophrenic. I was told I was bipolar. I was told I had anxiety. I was told, Parker, you're never going. This isn't your last time drinking. This isn't your last time doing that. And there was always this, identification of my hurt. We know why you're hurt because of this.
Yeah.
And
we know better than you do.
when I stepped back and I listened, Pastor Shane is my favorite person in the world. I can say that.
He's a cutie.
Prayed over me, and he said that this year for me has been a year of allowing the Bible to read me.
Ah.
And I have spent a lot of time trying to read the Bible. And I'm a pretty bold person. I was pretty sure of who I was when I came into this thing. And I was pretty sure of what I needed to do. And I was pretty sure of how it was going to end up. The last 2 weeks of my internship, I had no idea that they were coming. It rocked me. And it solidified all the truths that I learned in the gospel. There's a lot of debate on the Bible, right? Like, oh, man wrote
Tons.
it. And, you but when you do the research and when you sit back and you listen to somebody who is 70 years old,
And watch.
who has spent their whole time
Yeah.
in the last 60 years reading the Bible, started at a young age, and then you just go, okay, I'm a millennial. I don't know everything. I am identifying with so many hurts right now, and I'm filtering everything through it. And I let somebody speak and give their opinion because I trusted that they had the knowledge to back it up. Whatever it is, I mean, it's pretty bold to say that I know the truth.
Yeah.
A lot of people can say that. Anyone can say that. But what's your truth
Literally,
producing? What's the fruit from it? Is your truth producing more division? Is your truth producing pride? Is your truth producing, a lifestyle that is not actually fitting with what you're saying? And people attack our church a lot, but I have been there every day for 5 days a week for 9 months. And I've spent time with these people, and their fruit matches what they're preaching. And, I think that this year, and I said it in my little speech I gave to the intern class, it has solidified and concreted my brain to what the gospel says, which is all points to Jesus. So the Old Testament, me and Melody can sit here and say that we agree that the Old Testament points towards Jesus, right?
Yes.
Okay, so that's a truth for us. Then we can also say that we've learned some of the things that Jesus said. He lived in the gray area, according to the Pharisees, according to what the law of Moses said. No matter what we want to do or say, America was founded on the principles of the Bible. Harvard was a Bible school.
Whether they like it or not.
Whether we want to deny it or not.
Religious freedom is something that was born out of people that just wanted to dedicate their lives to what they learned scripturally, and honestly, people even trying to take it, in my personal beliefs, like beyond what's scripturally written. They're like, we're so about it that we want to take it to the next level, you know?
That's called a cult. And they do that.
And they do that. And I'm not saying that, it's always going to be wrong to do it that way. I think that there's a lot of safety in a life that is so strict, but it's not necessarily free. And that's something that you even, you learn in the Bible, or at least I learned in Bible school, kind of, my internship, is that being in what God has planned for you does not mean that you are safe. It means that you are in a position to do what's right. And there's a very big difference between the two.
With the Bible, question.
Yes.
What does your church teach about the books that were left out, such as like the Book of Mary and the Book of Enoch, and because there's so many of them?
They just taught on this.
Can I?
Yeah.
All right. So, from what I have, observed, we teach that it is not necessarily something to build your life upon and your beliefs upon, your practices, but that they can be helpful.
They're supplementary.
Especially in historic context and trying to figure out, because it'll have many references throughout, especially the Old Testament, to like external scriptures that are not necessarily part of the canon. And so it can be helpful in getting context for how you're supposed to be interpreting what is considered canon. And it can be helpful in maybe studying some of the not so important content. Things like if you're very concerned with the operations and functionality of like creatures that were not necessarily inspired by God, like
dinosaurs,
like what's it in the book of Enoch,
the fallen angels,
and the sleeping with humans and creating something that was not meant to be, or
that still exists,
the beasts. Yeah.
Oh, side note,
we could totally get into
that was during the time of Noah.
Yeah.
And that's when the flood came.
Yeah.
And God said he'll never do a flood again. It's actually going to be fire this time. I would rather water because I can swim. Can't swim through fire.
Fire is one of my, that's like probably either second first or first like ways I do not want to die.
Yeah.
I would take drowning over being like fire death. What would you
burn?
Do you know this fire
I'm
is,
like, why can't I think of the word right now? I would take that 110%.
This fire is both, like, I think, literal and metaphorical as far as it says it will, all these things we think we are talking about on this podcast that may be true or maybe not, the fire exposes our heart behind it. I think what I need people to understand is that I came in this podcast broken, and that I am in this podcast now not out of my situations,
healing,
but I feel God does a lot of weird things with fire, and he actually was in the fire with Meshach,
the dudes,
the
really
three
bad.
amigos.
Okay, you guys, you should know something. My Bible knowledge is still quite infant at this point.
Well, how long have you been a Christian, Melody?
I've only been in the game, let's see here, are we counting
3 years?
Less.
Wow.
Less.
And you would say, you could confidently say you have decided and dedicated the rest of your life to what?
Here's what I'm going to say. I'm not going to say that I have all the answers, but I am going to say, and Keela brought this up at the commissioning, that I have tried many different philosophies, ideologies, religions. I was quite experimental in my youth, and I was allowed that experimentation because my parents don't have a belief. So I was allowed to kind of just do whatever I want. I was up late on the computer a lot, and I did lots of studying, lots of reading, and I would try things once in a while, But all that to say, I tried all those things, and like you had mentioned, it was never fruitful. And I never felt that guiding voice of this could be it. And I've had things happen in my life now, physically and mentally, just things working out. Literally nothing has changed in necessarily who I am, other than being more confident, more unapologetically me, like very Instagrammable type thoughts. But it's all because I'm kind of doing the opposite, and then it works out to do that. I'm going against my natural desires and instead choosing biblical ones.
And would you and
it works
explain
out.
that to somebody who does not know what you're talking about?
It's such a kind of ephemeral thing for me. So let's see here.
You'd say there's
the easiest one is to talk about I say easiest one. It's just the easiest to put into words. It's not necessarily easy to talk about. But like with sexuality. So I am naturally, I'm bisexual. I like men and women. But when it comes to what has been fruitful in my life, what has grown me as a person, I can say that only my heterosexual relationships have done that. Not that I didn't learn something in my homosexual ones, but they weren't good. They really weren't. You know, my first one, I had a girlfriend before I had a boyfriend, and it was really sweet and cute and like, you know, like love notes, and I don't think we ever even kissed or anything. You know, it was very like pure, but it was homosexual. And
wow,
I had a crazy panic attack at her house when I stayed over for the first time, which, you know, once again, very pure, like no plans to do anything crazy. But like I had this crazy panic attack, and literally, and
this is
like,
with no biblical knowledge.
Nope. This is long before. I was like 12 years old, and she was 15, and that was part of like why I kind of panicked. I was really worried. I was like, she's older than me, like she's gonna want to do things. Like I had people try to force themselves on me when I was younger, and it was like all this internal turmoil of like the sin natures of others and sin natures of myself kind of came at a head when I stayed over at her house. And even though I really cared for her, even though we had such a heartfelt thing going, it only bubbled up when I was with her. And I think part of that is a vulnerability that I had with her, which is good, because I'm not necessarily naturally vulnerable, which is abnormal for women.
So being vulnerable in the wrong situation.
Yes.
So would you say that would you say that you chose Jesus, or that Jesus chose to show you him?
See, it depends on which angle I'm looking at it from. When I see it from my side, I chose Jesus. But when I see it from, you know, when I'm seeing kind of more through my pastor's eyes, and when they're talking to me, I can see how it would have been he chose me. Which I think is more poetic and beautiful, honestly, that he chose me, because he let me walk through all of that sin and just kind of wandering lifestyle with the family that I was born into, the sexuality that I was born with, all that type of stuff. He let me walk through all of that so that I could understand what people in sin are going through. And I have such a heart for people that are living in sin. I really do. Don't think that I'm judging you.
Define living in it and fighting against it.
Living it and fighting against it.
I think people have a hard time with understanding, I'm being condemned. You're a sinner too. You know, we're all sinners, right? So living in sin and compared to fighting against sin, because like you said, you still have to fight against some thoughts, right? You do.
I like to think of it less as a fight and more like with the agency, the choice. So you kind of get lured in by like the sexiness of the choice, but you ultimately, you're going to choose what may sometimes be the harder choice. So for me, it's like I sit back and I think about where it's gotten me so far. I think about the physical things that have come solely because of my choice to participate in this. So in that respect, I've had money come into my hands out of nowhere. Literally out of nowhere. I did my best to do my due diligence and figure out where it came from. I'm like, there has got to be some reason that this showed up in my account while I was unemployed. I was unemployed for 2 months over the summer before interns started. And I was in a prayer circle, and that's when I got the word from God to join up with the job that I have now. I was hired on the spot. These are all physical indicators of Jesus working through my life.
Because the Bible, because it does talk about this in the Bible.
It talks about this.
You know, all the crazy things we talk about, it's not like we're making them up. That's why I believe in the canon. That's why I believe in the Scripture.
Oh my God.
Because it's there.
I struggle so hard with Scripture because I'm a woman of science. I still identify as a woman of science, even though I'm also a woman of faith. I did not leave science in the past just because I decided to also take up faith. And I think that people, when they say that science opposes religion, I think that it comes from a closed-mindedness. They're not seeing the possibilities. They're not seeing the open doorways in both areas, because science has many unanswered questions. Religion has many unanswered questions. We were just talking about it. We don't know what the nomads were doing back in the day, how they were living life.
Yeah.
We can say that we have all this evidence to prove it, but if we're being honest with ourselves, we don't know. And the unknown has always terrified humans because we don't know how to prepare for it, right? But for me, it's like when I chose religion, I chose to lean into the unknown, and I'm not a naturally like trusting person, but when I choose to trust rather than to prepare for the worst, rather than when I decide to put up all my walls and not be vulnerable, because I'm not naturally vulnerable, but when I just do it, I get these results that I have never seen in my life with any other religion, with any other philosophy. I've had my mind blown in terms of worldviews. I was talking about this with Pastor Ken. I've had my worldview shattered, literally shattered, which if you've never had your worldview crushed before, right in front of your eyes, sometimes from a stranger that just happened to say something really smart, and all these clicks start happening in your mind, and suddenly your worldview is not appropriate for the world that you live in.
Wow.
You realize that reality and your worldview do not match up.
Yeah, never watch a 9/11 conspiracy theory
It
video.
is
Because that happened to me, and
It's
I was
the
like,
most crushing feeling you've ever felt.
Yeah.
Which is
wow.
it's so crushing.
It's self-defeating, right?
Everything I ever knew just falls apart in front of my eyes.
Ooh.
Disintegrates in your hands, turns to sand. And it really hurts. I don't think that I could do it again. Which is fear-based. I don't want to say that I choose religion because it's fear-based.
Yeah. Well, I want to hit you with something, Melody. And I think this is going to be the foundation.
I thought this was your testimony.
This is my transition for you.
Okay.
This is my
Hit me
I started this thing,
with
right?
that real talk.
Right? I put a foundation down, and it was hard.
It was.
Can I just tell you?
Oh my gosh!
I was
no,
scared.
Like the one episode that we did, I was like, oh my, Parker must just be naturally good at this because I am feeling the difficulty. I'm feeling the nervousness and everything, which I didn't feel nervous when I did my testimony. Like you took the brunt of it, and I'm thankful for it, and I'm feeling a little bit better now. But it's kind of daunting.
Yeah. I just want to set a base for you with a question, and then we can get into a little bit more of a different format and what you kind of want to do with this thing. But
not too much change is coming.
Why do you believe in Jesus? And not just Jesus, but the specific Jesus that we're talking about. I think that the
Jesus in the light that we know.
The Jesus that I'm talking about says that there will be Jesuses that are fake.
First of all, I don't believe in wrong Jesus. I'm going to say that right now. I think...
You don't believe in Antichrist.
I am not saying... Wait, no, that's not what I said.
Okay, those are figures that are representing Jesus but are not the true Jesus. There are religions that say they believe in Jesus, but it is not the Jesus that we are talking about, right?
That's not the definition of Antichrist that I know.
Well, you know that the Antichrist that comes back in Revelations is going to be considered Jesus, right?
I think that they'll be viewed like Jesus, but they will not necessarily have the name. I don't know. I don't know. These are all speculation.
Oh, they're going to think it's the first coming. They're going to think it's Jesus.
Well, I don't know much about the second coming. I don't feel comfortable necessarily giving an opinion on what I think it'll be like. I'm not studied enough.
Well, yeah,
on
yeah,
it.
not what it'll
I'm more
be like,
focusing
but
on the principles
you know
of
the last
how
thing,
to live my current life rather than
the last thing
how to live
Jesus
the
said to the
future.
disciples when he left, right?
I am
Okay,
assuming
the
you're gonna tell
last
me.
thing that Jesus said to the disciples when he left was, "Be careful
Yes.
of
False prophets.
false
False
prophets,
Yes.
and there will be many
And there have
antichrist,
been many.
and there has been many."
Yeah.
And to sit here boldly and say that we believe the truth
Mm.
and that we are connected
is
to
bold.
Capital
It's bold.
Christian Church,
Yes.
and that we believe I don't
Dot
believe
co.
I don't
Not
believe
dot com,
I
dot
don't
co.
here's what I finally have hit, and I think that this is what the church finally felt.
Mm-hmm.
I reached this conclusion a month ago. I don't have a perception of what I think my church believes. I don't believe some of what my church believes. I am a direct reflection of a discipleship program. I believe, regardless of if I like it or not, I believe what my church believes. I believe what Pastor Ken preaches. I believe what Pastor Tracy preaches. Whether it upsets people or not, whether it frustrates me or not, if it matches with the Bible that they have provided me with, I have never, ever, 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 ever in 5 years
Yeah.
experienced my pastors contradict the Bible.
Yeah.
They don't do it. I have seen every other religion contradict many aspects of the
Okay.
Bible. That's where I believe
Of their Bible.
of the Bible and their Bible. I mean,
Okay.
and I'm
'Cause
not going
those
to take
are
a
very
shot. I'm not taking a
different-
shot at Mormonism, but I'm saying that they
Ooh.
consider the same Bible that we do. And then they also have the
It's
Book
not,
of Mormon, and they do actually adjust their first Bible. So there's been
Yeah.
all kinds of things, but they like to
Which-
The
associate with
King James version.
I
That's what
read
they
King
use.
James.
The Church
of
but
Jesus
they actually
Christ.
have an alter. They have very slightly altered King
very
James.
slight altered.
Oh, they do.
There's
Yeah.
a section, I believe it's with Moses, the part where he's advocating for like members of a city to live. What was it?
hmm
I'm not good enough. I talked about it with Nico. That's the only reason I know.
Now,
about
I don't
it.
want to sit here and say I know everything, but Dr.
Sorry, Nico, if you ever hear this. I didn't mean to like name call you, but I did it already.
Stan, Pastor Stan Fleming, he is apologetics, which means you're
Dr.
going
Stan.
Dr. Stan
doctor.
Fleming apologetics. That means, and I was prophesied that I would do apologetics, which means you fight for your belief against every other.
That's not how I view it.
Well, that's your opinion then.
Well, yeah,
because
I
that's
know,
what the
but
definition of it is.
I don't know. I haven't looked it up, but I was just thinking like I feel like apologetics is not so much a fight and much more of
Defending.
shepherding.
Well, you're
shepherding.
you literally
Yeah,
have
you're
to
defending. You
So,
are defending.
If you're
But I
defending,
don't wanna
is someone
I don't wanna
fighting
view
against
it-
you?
I don't want to view
You wouldn't
it
have to
as
defend if someone was
putting
fighting.
someone else down so much
no,
as
no, no, no.
Well,
as
I'm not.
properly
Okay. I hear your
bringing
heart,
into
but I
light
hear your sweet
the
heart behind this.
value
Okay.
of what it is.
Think of it like a castle. You're gonna have men who are manned. It doesn't mean that there's an army charging your castle and they're gonna try to overtake you.
Yeah.
You always want to be prepared,
Yes.
right? So
Yeah.
We are being attacked right now. I mean, that's the thing that we have to understand.
you
is
have
that
to live your life.
We
like
are
you're
living
being
in
attacked.
it.
Yeah.
No, but and that's the thing, Melody.
Perhaps the disconnect is
Like a Boy Scout.
I'm just going to be honest about it. I do think that there are differences between male and female brains. I think this might be one of them.
Sin. I hate the sin. I
putting it
don't
out there.
hate the sinner. I don't hate myself because of my sin. So I don't hate other people because
Sometimes
of
I
their
hate
sin.
myself. Not that it's a good thing, but sometimes I do.
Totally. But I think what I am articulating with what happened to me in the last 2 weeks is that my brain was healed.
Was there some particular acceptance or realization that just like
Stephen Lunsford actually prayed against my ADHD.
I love that guy.
Pastor Tracy.
I didn't know. Fun fact: I didn't know that he was the one that baptized me.
Wow.
For the longest time. I just didn't put it together. I forgot. It was early on in my faith, and then we ended up doing my second year internship year with him, and I I never thought about it. And then I was looking at my old baptism video, and I was like, oh, and I zoomed in, and I was like, oh my God, that's Stefan. Stefan dunked me. That's so funny. Oh my gosh. Anyways,
Baptisms
side
are
note,
dope.
Stefan has such a great power in his life. I love that dude.
But I was ranting about my ADHD, which I do often. First person ever to say, let's pray against it. That dude, I've never met a bolder dude to pray for against something. And I've experienced some healings with him praying for people. And I felt a shift, for sure. And then even today, I sat through the entire service, dude. I used to get up 100 times. Like, ADHD has plagued my entire life.
Yeah.
And it was my identity. And then Pastor Tracy, I sent her a text message all about this diagnosis that I had of chronic PTSD, drug dependency, anxiety disorder. She didn't respond.
Wow.
And I got upset, right?
Yeah.
Then
Natural.
one day in class, the topic comes up in scripture, and she preaches on it, and she fights against it. And if you know her story, she's not going to mess with suicide. She's not going to mess with, there's a healing that took place in her mind. I haven't read her book, and I would love to.
I haven't finished it, but the passage when she talks about her anxiety attack at Barnes & Noble, I've literally never related to something, and oh my gosh, why am I crying? I've never related to something written down like that, probably ever in my life.
And I never knew that she ever even had an anxiety attack, Tim. She has treated me so soft and sweet. The first person in my life to be an authority figure, to not tough love me. And I've told people I do not respond well to tough love. And she... I had a point in the middle of our podcast, probably episode 5 or something. I was at the church cleaning, and the enemy kept telling me, slit your wrist in the middle of the sanctuary. And I sat there for 10 minutes contemplating killing myself, feeling all this pressure, feeling all this weight that was not even there. It wasn't even there.
That's the crazy thing about
Yeah, it wasn't even there.
how the enemy works and just how mental disease works.
It's not even real.
It's not
It's
even
not real.
real,
It's not
but at
real.
the
It's
not even
same
real.
time, it's so
It's real.
Because you make it real.
I watched a show
It's insane.
on...
Kind of
I-
literally.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No.
Didn't mean to make a pun, and then I was like, oh, that's a pun.
Oh, I didn't even catch it.
I should
was
address the pun while we're
It
in
wasn't
it.
But I was watching a show on HBO. It's like Slender Man. It's about these two kids.
Yes.
These two girls who like took their best friend
That one
into
messes
the...
me up.
Yeah, it's
messes
an
me up so
amazing.
bad.
It's an amazing episode, and it dives into the girl who stabbed her best friend, and she was diagnosed with schizophrenia. Well, it turns out her father also had schizophrenia, and the guy talked literally about what you're saying. He's like, there's somebody in the, they're talking to him about it, and he's like, yeah, when you have schizophrenia, you literally see somebody in your back seat when you're driving, and they're not there. You know they're not there, but they are there.
But they're there.
Like, it is so
They're
real.
talking to you. You're hearing it.
Mhm.
It's part of your reality.
It
even though
is.
it isn't actually part of shared reality. It's still your personal one. And that doesn't mean that it's not, like, valid.
Doesn't mean that it's not real to you,
Yes.
but it's just not real to anybody else.
Yeah.
And sometimes I think about this. When people have certain types of mental disorders, are they crazy? Or are they able to tap into a different type of an energy, or they receive a different type of a signal that we may,
Yeah.
on the majority of like individuals,
That's how I feel
may
about
not be able to actually accept.
Yeah.
It's kind of like plugging like
Yeah.
a phone cord into an outlet. It doesn't fucking
Yeah.
work. It doesn't work.
Excuses.
I caught that.
You're good. we have forgiveness and grace.
Thank you.
I kind of feel that way about my personal ADD, ADHD, my relationship with that diagnosis. I actually find it to be an advantage, and I don't think that it's the same story for everyone. There are obviously degrees to how it affects your life, and even just different ways that it does. Oh my gosh, I wake up every day, and a majority of the time that I plan for getting ready in the morning is just for me finding my keys and finding my glasses. That's a hardcore majority of the time that I spend. Even if I put it in the if I try to put it in the same place every day, somehow I'll touch them at one point thinking that I'm ready to go, and then I'm not ready to go because I forgot something else, and it's like back to that same thing. It's like that key point. I need that. There's no way I can leave without it. Why do I keep messing this up? And I attribute it to that. But it's something that I've learned to really love about myself, and it's given me so many opportunities to talk about mental health because it pertains to me. There's lots of times that you feel like you can't speak on something because you have no personal relation to it. It's scary to put your opinion out there in the ring because you're like, well, I'm not black, so I shouldn't talk about what black lives are going through. But in at least the mental arena, I can kind of throw in my hat because I have some experience in it, and witnessing it from close members of my family. Your phone is ringing. I'm sorry.
It's Jesus.
And
doing good, son.
It's my mom.
Anyways, I've decided to really use it as an advantage in my life, and I've decided that it's actually something about myself that I love, and there are quirks to my personality that I wouldn't have without it, and I'm thankful for them. I'm truly thankful for them, and even though it can be an inconvenience in my life, it never has put me in danger, and it has never made me feel like I'm not worthy of something because of having it. Instead, I just have to think, okay, how can I take what I have and apply it to what I want? And that there is a way to do it. I've seen it. I know it. I can feel it inside of me from the Spirit. And when I do remember to do that, it always works out. It really, it feels like magic. It feels like magic, but it's just working out. Even though I know it's supposed to be not a good thing, for some reason, it is coming together. The seams are just aligning, and it's Gucci.
It lets you, being someone who I feel I can actually say formerly had ADHD,
Amen.
It helped me flow in the Spirit.
Yes.
You kind of have to. There was such a brokenness, and everyone else seamlessly just going into this Jesus stuff, and I'm freaking out.
How on earth are you not thinking about socks right now? How are you just praying through the Bible?
It allowed us to be more prophetic.
Yeah.
And Pastor Tracy mentioned a lot of pastors are ADHD.
Yes.
Or considered ADHD. And ADHD, if nobody knows what that means, it means your brain does not produce as much dopamine as it's supposed to, and you literally...
I haven't really even looked into it that far.
So what happens is you get so excited about something, you use all your dopamine, and then you have no dopamine left, and then you become lazy, you become tired, you become what the world considers not trying.
Lazy with little quotes around it, because honestly, I feel
that's why
as an ADD person,
deficit
you're
hyperactive
not
disorder.
lazy.
So the reason you can't pay attention
yes.
is because you've wasted all your attention already on something else.
I remember being so upset in school.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I don't understand. I want to know this probably more than some of my kids in class. Why is it when it's homework time, focus time, all the other kids are staring at the page and their pencils are moving and mine's not?
But you knew all the names of all the characters of all the cartoons you liked and the combinations of their fight moves.
I know
and
stupid
stuff.
I almost said the S word. I know stupid amounts of stuff about things that don't matter.
So
although
what is
honestly,
smart,
when I'm trying to tell a joke and when I'm trying to show who I am rather than what I'm capable of, it comes so much more in handy and ends up proving what I'm capable of. by being who I am. And that's why I'm like so passionate about being unapologetically who I am, because I feel like I spent so much of my life apologizing for things that were not my fault, or that perhaps lived in that gray area, and I thought that because it was gray that meant that it was bad. I was very concerned with being pure. Before I cared about what the Bible said, I was just personally had a concern about it. And ever since I let that stuff go and realized that living in the gray area doesn't mean that I'm living in the wrong, I've been so much more free and able to choose what's right and do what's right without feeling like I can't be with myself, because there are times that I've made sacrifices to not be myself, to look right to outside sources, and then I realize I'm like, now that I think about it, I don't think that was the right thing to do. I should have gone against the grain a little bit and done what was right for
very
me.
ADHD brain, for sure.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, we make very impactful decisions and moments, and then we can get the reality of it. But then the shame is what keeps people from. And
shame makes me so mad.
I have to
so mad.
Boast in the. Shoot, I'm gonna
boast in Jesus.
I'm gonna call it a spiritual gift, to be honest. Exposing myself.
Not physically, not like going around opening your jacket up.
Admitting when I do something wrong.
Schools.
One of my teachers did that.
Yeah, I know. Capital High School. Yeah.
What?
We prayed for him. Man, I wonder how he's doing.
I wonder what he's doing.
That breaks my heart.
He was my football coach
It's a
sophomore
hard
year.
thing to recover from.
Quick story.
Yeah.
One of the memories I have of that guy, we were losing at LeBois Junior High. It was halftime.
Yeah.
And I'm not LeBois. I'm sorry. Where were we? We were playing at Bora.
Labrora.
Yeah, Labrora. I'm sorry. I was mixing up my 9th and 10th grade coaches. But 10th grade, this guy comes in the locker room heated, and he grabs half of the water, like the big water containers.
Oh.
And it's half full, and he just picks it up and he throws it at the lockers, and it busts open, and water goes everywhere, and he just starts cussing at us. And I'm thinking, like,
whoa,
this dude's hardcore. And then, like, 2 years later, it turns out he was just going to Walmart and just, pulling his junk out and showing people and then running away. It was really weird.
Somebody can be like that, and
certain battles,
living in a community, and
God still loves them. I just want to say that right now. God still loves them.
Yeah.
Sure. We can think it's weird. We can try to judge it and psychoanalyze
have you noticed
it all that we want.
I'm not mentioning his name. We're not mentioning the high school we went to. And I literally feel like a sorrow for him.
Yeah.
But I felt, we've all had crazy thoughts,
I didn't
right?
know him.
We've all had crazy thoughts.
But
Yeah.
it's
but
it's acting upon those thoughts.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah. And that's why we judge other people so hard. Is we hear it in our own voice, and we're like, man, that's messed up. And then we see it in someone else, and we don't know their intentions. We don't know their life. And we judge it that much more harshly because of the lack of knowledge for that intention. And, like, you judged it in yourself, so naturally you got to be extra hard on someone else when they do it.
Yeah. Here's why I will not identify with ADHD anymore, because they say most ADHD also suffer from depression and anxiety. And then if I identified with depression and anxiety,
because you're low dopamine levels.
If I identify with that, I fought it my whole life. I mean, I've I experienced God when I was 8 years old. I was baptized in the Holy Spirit,
which is special. Very special.
And I almost got jaded to it when I got older.
Yeah.
And I've recommitted a few times, but what I want to say with it is that there's no excuse for suicide. And it's funny, we associate with the Catholic Church, right? They say that that's if you commit suicide,
ultimate sin or something.
Here's the thing,
because your body is God's gift to you, right?
Have I felt suicidal? Yes. Have I done it? Obviously not. I've attempted a few times. Not really. But why have I not done it?
Yeah.
Because I believe in Jesus. If I didn't, I would have been gone a long time ago. And do I do it because I'm afraid of do I not do it because I'm afraid of a punishment? No. I realized
there's hope
at a point. He already did it. He died for me. And I think if you don't believe in the Bible and Christ, then you're not going to care about the crucifixion story.
Yeah.
But I think something that hits new Christians is Easter. And I think something that, you could become a Christian over summer, get rocked, have a great experience, make some life adjustments, meet a community. Then Easter hits. And it's like, he died. He died for it. He killed himself. I mean, Jesus
he
essentially
knew
committed
what was
suicide.
going to happen,
he could have
and he
stopped
allowed the bricks to be laid for him to end up on that path. I think I'm kind of unique. That's not necessarily the story that brought me into the religion. I don't like that word. I don't like that word. There's so many connotations. Yeah, faith. That's not what got me into it. Really, what got me into it was realizing that that God wants to know me just as much as I want to know him, even though technically he knows everything, right? And one of the words, like literal words, that he tells me all the time is how much I'm worthy, because that's one of my number one struggles. I'm like, God, I'm a piece of crap. I don't deserve any of this. I don't even deserve to live. When are you going to just hit me with a bus so that I don't have to exist on your beautiful earth anymore? Just going to be fully vulnerable about that. I don't know why I'm allowed to be in the place that I am in my life, but he just keeps gifting me with it. And so once I realized that he wants to know me just as much as I want to know him, I was very concerned with what is right and what is wrong. And once I accepted that I'm never going to do it perfectly the way that he did it perfectly, that was such a weight lifted off my shoulders. Because I accepted that he never asked me to be perfect. He never asked me to be him. I'm not supposed to be all-powerful. I'm not supposed to be perfectly doing these things. I came out of an imperfect situation, and I'm probably going to leave in a very similar sense, but I have been improved through allowing someone who is perfect to come into my life and being vulnerable to them.
That's hard for...
And it's hard because and back to ADHD, a lot of people with ADHD suffer with not wanting to start something because they don't feel like that they can do it in a way that thing deserves to be done.
Wow.
We're obsessed with doing it the right way. We want to do the right thing the right way. We are all about the process. That deserves to be treated with so much respect and so much honor. And, those are kind of like hard concepts to understand when you're just trying to do a math assignment. But, that's how much thinking is going on. It's like, you can't ever say that a person with ADHD is lazy. It's like they were so obsessed with doing it well that they actually completely defeated themselves in the process.
They couldn't even get started.
They couldn't even get started because they were so concerned with doing it right.
What's crazy is in class, we did... I love interns. It's so unique. And I'm excited to see how the next class is going to be.
I'm so sad, but also happy that it's done. I'm like, wow, I actually finished something. What? I finished something? And then also I'm like, oh my God, I'm done with it. Really? So...
you guys. You just graduated. Finish your thought, and then let's talk about the rest of the intern stuff.
Yeah. I didn't do any of the schoolwork. We were supposed to do all kinds of schoolwork
within the internship.
Yeah,
part?
we were supposed to do
actual schoolwork.
I did work.
You go through the entire Bible.
I didn't turn it in.
3 hours.
Yeah. So we had worksheets that we were supposed to complete. We had 2
Essays.
projects. So one you do based on the Old Testament and another one that you do based on the New Testament. I did technically complete my New Testament one in the sense that I did my preaching project in front of my classmates, which was awesome and scary and cool. But But my Old Testament project, which I'm honestly more proud of than my New Testament one, I never even ended up turning in because it wasn't perfect. Because it wasn't right. It didn't deserve to be looked at yet.
So the one place where I was able to let go and was morning prayer. I was there every morning at 8 a.m. for 7 months. On
the very few occasions that I was on time, you were always there.
Pre-prayer. We had pre-prayer for an hour. Then we had actual pre-prayer. And then we went into class for 2 hours. Then we took lunch. Then we had another 2-hour class.
Pre-prayer was student-led. That was not actually part of the program. It was just some students that were very passionate about prayer. Came in an hour early in order to kind of set the vibe in the room before everyone else got there.
Where I grew the most.
Yeah.
And I experienced so much just breakthrough and all kinds of stuff there. And I think this year I learned, I'm going to lean into my strengths, acknowledge my weaknesses, and expect God to fill that gap. And to, Pastor Keela.
It's so great.
She called me out and she said, Parker, you're so encouraging. You're so sweet. You give nice hugs. You're so nice to people. But I feel like you do it because you're convinced that you don't have anything else to offer. Mm-hmm. You don't have any wisdom. And she said, I feel like you say, well, at least I'm strong. At least I can lift heavy things. At least I could be nice to somebody because I don't know this Bible very well. And I don't, I'm not, I've messed up and I've walked away and I've done stupid things and I'm not worthy to give wisdom. And she said, no, she actually stop right now saying that to yourself. And she said, you will be known when you're a grandpa. And I had a hard time ever picturing myself living that long. And she said, you are going to be known as a man of wisdom.
That's good.
And I've felt it in this podcast. I've felt it, I've always known it, but I just fought it. And she nailed it on the head. Dude,
you're full of wisdom, man. Every time you're on the show, I learn so much. This is like I always say, every time you come on here, I'm like, this is my church, man. I get my weekly blessing. Well, I was getting like my weekly blessing. I'll high five you on that, dude. But I'm
like, we can hold hands.
Yeah, we can hold hands. But no, it really is. I'm not a religious man. I'm not a spiritual man. But I'm more spiritual than religious. Yes. But my beliefs have changed, and they're ever evolving because my experiences are going to shapeshift the way that I view things, I interpret them, and I internalize them.
You're open to new information changing the current status quo.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm just open to just anything that's going to make me uncomfortable and grow.
Oh, wow.
So you
like a little bit of discomfort.
Yeah, I do.
Personal question. Are you a little bit maybe of a masochist?
I'm not a masochist.
You're not a masochist.
No.
Are you?
Tim doesn't feel as much pain as you would think he does.
Yeah, you'd be surprised.
I don't mean like that. I just
just from if you look at his lifestyle, you'd think this dude's putting himself through pain. But and that's what sometimes I want to say, Tim, slow down, Tim. Tim,
people tell me that all the time.
But I have no desire to tell you to slow down.
Actually,
so you know, I'm like, pick it up. Let's go.
You've inspired me to pick it up, dude. Like,
thanks, man.
Yeah.
Which is funny because I have no financial gain from doing this, but at the same time, I'm like, I want you just based off. I don't know you super great yet, but at the same time, I can tell that you care a lot about being successful in a monetary way, not in a shallow way.
Yeah.
Because some people equate those things to be together.
I said this in the sauna.
Oh yeah, you did say that.
To some strangers.
I don't mean that.
Yeah, you did.
I don't mean that.
He literally said that same thing.
Same
the other
page,
week
different sentence.
Yeah. Literally.
But like I can tell that you care, and so I of course want that for you. I think that there's striving in an unhealthy way, and then there's striving in a very healthy way.
Come on, girl.
It's like you've got that healthy strive to you.
You do, dude.
And so I believe in you to freaking do the heck out of that.
We wouldn't be doing this. I mean, it'd feel weird. But there's such a pureness to this, bro.
I love it, man.
Tim, seriously,
it's a great show.
I love having you as a host. I wouldn't choose anyone else.
Thank you.
Testimonies with Tim, bro.
Yeah.
That's one reason I'm so thankful for Parker. Like, Parker, you're my connection to Tim. And what makes that connection valuable is the other end of it, and that's you. And
It's a
I
triad.
love both of you guys. This is so great. I love it.
Yeah, no, this is a great show. I always have a blast with you guys, and you're and my testimony is ever evolving. Whether or not I believe in one thing or another, it's just for me having people like for me having two individuals such as yourselves who know so much about the Bible. I was raised in religion.
I wouldn't say that about myself.
No, we do.
I have more knowledge, I think, external of the Bible than I even do of the Bible, but I've been, I guess you could say, like, practicing what Bible principle, I don't even know how to say it. Like
biblical principles?
Yes, that one.
Yeah.
I've been practicing
kind of Bible principles,
what
same
they
thing.
look like, I guess, during this internship. It's the most dedicated I've been to a religion or a practice, but not necessarily feeling the most knowledge.
Can I just talk to Melody real quick?
Do it.
No.
Melody, you are just scratching the surface.
I hope so.
No, I don't think you understand. You are about to be taken to the depths of what Christ wants this country, this world, this time, this era to know about him.
Are we?
You know that, right?
Are we in the prophetic session now?
You just get ready for camp, bro.
Oh gosh.
You are going to be. I cannot wait to listen to these next few podcasts, and I'm excited to listen back to this one.
Yeah.
Melody, you have more in store for you than you are willing to accept at this time.
That's true.
Okay.
I believe that because just based off of the prophetic words that I have received, and even just the amount of people that are willing to rally behind me, I'm like, why?
Have you
I don't necessarily have like...
Yeah.
I'm rallying behind you. I'm
think
giving you my whole afternoon.
Yeah, I know. I'm
I
like,
believe in
and
you.
I feel bad because you're supposed to be at dinner with your grandma right now.
It's
I'm
whatever.
sorry.
No.
I'm so
My
sorry.
grandparents are dead. I'm just going to my mom's house
No.
to go grab that camera.
Never
and,
name
and
names.
grab food. Yeah.
Oh, he's passed
Melody,
on.
Yeah, he's passed on.
I need
know
to
that.
speak to you.
Okay. We will speak.
No, right now.
Oh,
I'm
we're
telling
gonna
you.
speak
I'm
right now.
telling you something. Okay?
Okay. I'm going to close my eyes.
You're about to get wrecked. You're going to be unrecognizable. And you have, I believe, stumbled into the truth. Almost like falling backwards in the dark and hitting a lampstand. And then all of a sudden the lights come on and you turn and you catch it. And then you realize what you're holding is something valuable and you almost broke it. So I need you to know that the enemy is going to attack you hard. Dude, you got to be careful, bro.
Yeah.
In the next couple months, he is going to do his best to live in that gray area and to pull you and to make you be that accepting, open person. I need you to realize what it means to preach truth in love. You have to study Paul. You have to listen to the way Paul talks. You have to understand that you have the call of Paul, that you are called. We have very similar callings. It's so crazy. That's why we're doing this right now.
That's why this works.
But I'm a little bit ahead of you. I'm older. I've done this a little longer.
That's
and
true.
I've hit a level that I didn't choose to hit in just the last week. And I believe that there is a whole nother level out there for me in the next couple weeks. That being said, passing this thing on.
Yeah.
I want to thank you for your sweetheart. I want to thank you for your willingness to speak. I mean, that was a hard thing for you in your past. And I want to encourage you to slow down a little bit and to be okay with just preaching the gospel.
Yeah.
Only the Bible. If it doesn't fit with the truth, it's not true.
Yeah.
And believe what you just spent 2 years studying.
Yes.
And to that, not only believe it, but to project it and to pull it out of and to put it into everyone that you come in contact
Yeah.
with.
And that's, the truth. I think if we're being very honest with ourselves, the truth is always the thing that it not only kind of hits up all your pleasure centers. You're like, yes, that's a rock, that's a foundation, that's something I can build upon. But it also kind of hurts a little bit because it takes the feet out from under your fledgling dreams, the things that like you hadn't quite like really gone into. Anyways, what I'm trying to say is that's a very, I would say, Holy Spirit derived word for me. I tend to be very accommodating. I tend to flex based off of what everyone else is saying around me. So for you to say, kind of like, grow a backbone and believe the truth and then say it, that's very accurate for how I live my life and my past and what I think God has called me into the future. You're not the first person to tell me such a thing, and for me to tell myself that. So thank you, first of all, for the blessing and for being willing to be receptive to what the Holy Spirit has to say about me to you. I don't think people understand that it can be kind of sketchy when you're in that spiritual it's a little bit of like a intertidal zone.
It's warfare, bro.
And you don't know necessarily which camp you're visiting to find out that information. Sometimes it's like
Game of Thrones with religion, right?
Oh
They're all battling each other to be the best religion.
Oh my gosh.
And to have the ultimate truth. But in my opinion, every church has a piece of the truth, right?
And every church has a piece of the wrong thing,
Of the
too.
wrong thing, exactly.
Exactly. None of us have it 100%
Nobody's 100%.
right, and none of us have it 100%
And our
wrong.
pastors just said that
Because
last week.
no one would believe
Our
in it.
pastors just said that last week. All the other churches, they say they are the truth.
Always. Every church that
That's a dangerous place.
It's very dangerous.
But our church does say, they do admit that, just like we are right now.
We're willing to accept the fact that we could be wrong. I think that a church that is not built on humility is the most dangerous thing.
I am not willing to say
ever.
that I am wrong about this, about Jesus, about the stuff we're talking about. I am willing to say that I can interpret it the wrong way, and I am willing to say that I don't always live it out.
Yeah.
But I will die. I would die. If you came up to me with a gun, put it to my head, said, Parker, you need to say right now that you do not believe what Capital Church has taught you. You do not believe in Jesus Christ. You do not believe in this Bible. If you do not, we will shoot you in the head. I will say, pull the trigger. Send me home. The only reason I would not...
Send me home.
That happens in the Middle East. That happens in the Middle East.
The only reason
every
that
day.
hasn't happened, the only reason...
cut your head off with
The only
a
reason
machete.
I don't want that to happen, the exact reason why Paul said he didn't want it to happen, there are more people that I have to reach. I have only tasted a little touch of what it's like to bring someone to the truth, baptize somebody, take them to church camp, have them experience the gift of tongues. This was my testimony with Tim Turtle Talks 3 or whatever. Felt like the greatest moment of my life. Like I was ready to die after that. Like, cool. And God said, millions more.
Yeah.
And I went, oh, shoot. That's hard.
A lot,
that
God.
took
I don't have that many
7
fingers.
months. That cost me a job. That was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. I had a demon look me right in the eyes, and I was paralyzed. Like, how in the world am I going to do this again?
Yes.
And then he goes, look at the pastors around you. They've done it for 30 years. They've done it for 30 years. Every time I get bitter, every time I get upset, every time I want to slow down, I look at Joel King. I look at the pastorship that is in our church, and they have gone through what I've gone through 10 times over.
Yeah. They have such a strong tenderness to them. It's like this experience that they've lived through and navigated well has really given them such an empathy for people like you and me. But then also at the same time, it's I don't know, it makes me think of lifting weights. Maybe it's just because I'm with you guys. Because normally I don't think about weights, but you guys go to the gym, unlike me.
Jacked.
So jacked. And anyways, it's like when you're lifting those heavy weights and you get calluses You know, it's like the weight, that weight is where your empathy comes from. But the callous is where your strength comes from. It's like choosing to lift it up, choosing to do something with it, you know. And it's like they just have this strength that I've never seen in a person. I feel like I could come to them with the most tender thing of my heart that I don't even know what to do with, and I could tell it to them. And it's not that they're going to tell me what to do with it. They're not going to say what I should do with it. Whenever I go to Keela, and I'm even kind of like hoping that she'll just tell me what to do, she never does. No. But she still ends up saying that thing that empowers me to make the right decision. She still ends up saying that thing that reminds me of who I am in Christ, and who I came out of. You know, she didn't know me when I signed up for this internship. She still had to give her stamp of approval for me to do it.
Right, dude.
But she literally did not know me. When I did my interview with her, it was the first time I'd ever met her. And when we talk about it now, she's like, I knew that God had plans for you in this internship when I saw you. Even though you didn't know what you felt about it, I kind of did it just because I was like, well, maybe I'll never know what I end up really thinking about this ideology if I don't just dive all the way in. So I did it kind of on a whim. It was a very expensive whim. And but she had the faith for it before I did. And look at me now.
We are on the shoulders of giants.
Oh my gosh. I kind of have a love-hate relationship with that saying, but
Maybe you are the giants.
Yeah. I think that we're
holding everybody else up.
We're the
in
next,
the future, I hope to really support those who are not, specifically for me, because I deal with young people, I deal with children. I hope that will be, my legacy, is that I can speak life into someone so young and so impressionable and say something that's worth hearing. Say something that they can really use both in church and out of church. I'm never trying to just talk to someone so that they know how to act right in church. If anything, it's the opposite. I would much rather you know what to do when you're at that party at 3 a.m. and, everybody's kind of figuring out, it's like, okay, I'm going to crash on the couch with this guy, and I'm going home with this dude, even though he's kind of drunk and shouldn't be driving. I'm going to let him drive me to wherever he wants to go. And I hope that I can give you knowledge for those situations rather than for, how to blend in at church.
And that's the fight we're fighting, man. This is not so common knowledge anymore. I mean, This is something that kids are not even thinking about.
That's why my background is so important to my faith. That's why being born into a family of an atheistic nature is so important to my missionary work. I would never change any of the things that I have gone through if it meant that I wouldn't find Jesus. I would never change a single thing. And I've been through some hard stuff. I have. And even in the middle of my being with Jesus, I've been through some hard stuff and had to witness some things that I wish I'm like, why? But if I had to trade it, I wouldn't.
No, it made you who you are.
It made me who I am, and it gave me the empathy and the knowledge to navigate new territory that I wouldn't have even thought about beforehand.
Handle certain situations that you may not have been able to handle without experiencing those types of emotions or roadblocks.
My unsaved friends literally are like my biggest compass for how much I've changed, because my best friend Madison is very emotionally intelligent. And I honestly, if we're just being real, she's overall intelligent. She's had an above 4.0 GPA, from forever on. She's always been super smart and just emotionally connected. And when we talk about real issues, she always says, she's like, whoa, wait, Melody, you're not running away from your feelings right now. You're not trying to change the subject. You actually want to dig in and talk about this with me and be real with me. Those are changes that I only made because of coming to church. I never would have found that without it. And I'm so grateful to be able to connect with her in a way that she's been searching for, and to just be that friend that she needs and maybe was hoping for, but maybe not even necessarily believing in, coming from me. But now I get to be that support for her like she has been for me. It's everything to me. The people that I love are everything to me.
I love it. Two things. One question. I digress a little bit.
Yes.
Back to the ADD, ADHD.
Yes.
Do you think that a lot of people who do have certain types of, they're not disorders. Everybody's ADD and ADHD, in my opinion.
Disability would be considered something that isn't normal.
Yeah. No.
So it's a disability?
And inhibits you from, like, normalized activity.
Yeah, whatever normal is, right? But do you think that people who are diagnosed with certain types of disorders, yeah,
because
our pharmaceutical industry is all about that.
Yeah.
But do you believe that those individuals gravitate towards religion? Do you think that there's something about it? Because you say you're pastors, pastors have ADD, and like when I was in church, I would notice that some people would come in like, and they would be new, but you could tell like something's not right with that guy. Yeah, they're a little different. They communicate differently. They all kinds of stuff, right?
Some would say they use it as a crutch. I've been told that.
Yeah,
before. Use God and use Jesus as a crutch. Use it as an excuse to be broken. Use it as an excuse to not. Use it as an excuse to not just buck up, man up, and do. If you did a study, I'd say 35% of people do not believe ADHD is real.
I don't. But the only reason I say that is because I have had friends who were on just Ritalin and pills their whole lives growing up because they were ADHD and they were collecting their government checks,
misdiagnosis and something not being real.
Yeah, it's true. There's a lot of misdiagnoses.
It's very tied into the perception.
You can actually measure the size of someone's frontal lobe.
I don't know if I necessarily believe that it's like ADHD and ADD. I do believe that there are hormonal imbalances and there's ways to correct that. But
that's essentially what it is.
Yeah, it's a hormonal imbalance.
I tend
ADD.
to be kind of holistic about it.
Medication.
I prefer to correct my hormonal and brain pathway imbalances through mental training. A lot of people seek out meditation. A lot of people seek out even physical exercise. That's one that I use. I integrate my boring activities with my vigorous activities. So in school, I would, read a quiz or whatever, and then I would get stuck, and I'm like, man, why can't I think this out? It's not that I don't know it. And I would leave the little computer lab, and I would go run up and down 2 flights of stairs, and then come back and
refocus
and have a new not even just new focus, it's like you have a new fire to get it done. It's like I lit a different fire, and now I'm going to take the torch that I got from that one, and I'm going to swing it back over to the other side of the thing that's kind of dying and bring some new life into it.
Gotcha.
So,
Love it.
Answer your question.
Yes.
I believe so. Broken people go towards Christ.
Yes.
Because that's who he is fighting for.
Yeah.
Church in Christ, it's scriptural.
Yeah.
It's not for those who think they have it figured out, because guess what? Nobody has it figured out.
And
guess who thought they figured it out was the Pharisees, was the Jewish believers at the time, was Paul, the dude who wrote, who changed my life, who, was blinded. And then all that, that his whole coming to Christ moment was that he just had a little bit of time where he couldn't see.
That's wild.
We talk about it and we go, this beautiful, amazing road to Damascus, crazy moment where Paul was revealed to Jesus.
He was a man who could see, and then temporarily could not.
Had the wrong perspective.
Yeah.
And all it took was a moment of realizing that his sight was not his in the first place.
Yeah.
And but yes, the answer is God the whole, this is in Romans, the law is for the broken, for the sinners. It's not for the saints. It's not something that you're not supposed to live out the law. You're not supposed to, you cannot live a perfect life. You actually, and that's what church is for. It's a hospital for the broken.
In a
gosh, you guys are awesome today, dude.
That I read, written by a biblical scholar, he calls it a provision. That the law, like Old Testament law, is a provision that is no longer necessary because Jesus fulfills that provision. So just think about what you associate with the word provision. You think of ration. You think of food, right? That's the first thing that comes to mind when I think of a provision. I think of shelter. I think of food. I think
hospitality,
of necessities.
Yeah.
I'm not thinking about that feel good type of enjoyment. When I hear the word provision, I'm thinking about something that is sustaining my life. So in the Old Testament, you had the law as your provision. And then Jesus comes through. He's like, what's up, everybody?
Shakes it up.
I'm here to live in your gray area and show you the light. And he comes in and he just blows all that out of the park, right?
Which is crazy because then he points right back to it.
He still does.
Because we actually
He's not saying that it's without life.
We actually are still required to fulfill the law.
It's not without life.
We actually are still called
yes.
to the 10 Commandments.
That eternal quality is what I like to refer to it as. When God speaks something to you, it never stops being true. It was never a temporary word from God. It's something that he spoke over you and is meant to remind you throughout your life. And that's the same with like the Old Testament law. The things that you hear from the Old Testament are not like dead just because we have a New Testament. We didn't wipe all that away and it doesn't exist anymore. We wiped it away to make room. It's like when you're setting out the Thanksgiving table. It's like, the turkey is finally done. You know, it's piping hot and ready to be eaten. But we've got like mashed potatoes and stuffing and all this stuff that does provide sustenance, does have a purpose in what we all gathered here for. It's not that we don't want it, but the turkey is the centerpiece, right? So we got to make room. So you brush it away to make room, not to get rid of it.
Yeah.
So, all that being said, man, my number one, if this is the last thing I was ever going to say on this podcast, which it might be.
I feel like we need a special effect. I'm like,
repentance.
Well, I was going to have you just, like recap, well, not recap, but I was going to have you, before you, and like talk about repentance. Well, I kind of want you to tell everybody what you're going to be doing after this real quick, because
and why you're passing
it along, and then we'll finish it up, and I'll close the episode. But
so that you can go and be with your family.
Yeah, well,
because we want that for you.
I know, but this is kind of my family too. You guys are like,
we love you.
You're part of the family. You're part of Channel 99.
But your biological family is important.
They are for sure. So, but yeah, so you're leaving Testimonies with Tim as the host. Yes. You're passing the torch, and you are. My understanding is you are going to be joining a pastoral. What's going on with this? What are your next steps right now?
What I've noticed as a second year is there are a handful of students from the prior year that have stayed close, that have dedicated time, and they basically learned their second year to revolve their life around the church, and they never stopped doing that. And I got friends like Rob Ash and Michael Lunsford and Garrison, and
people really in the thick of it.
The people that are like, and then it was funny. Pastor Tracy said, we're not doing this for fun. We're planning 10 churches in 10 years. Yeah. Is a prophecy.
It's not a game.
It's not a game.
Life.
We are prepping you guys to. We can't not do it on our own. Mm-hmm. We are prepping you guys to be the future leaders of these future churches.
It's not just a fluffy thing to make you feel better about your decision.
It's a commitment
It's
to
a
ministry.
very real thing
And
coming your way.
You know what's crazy? I
need
noticed
to
today they
prepare
did a
for.
30-person cap on interns. Did you hear that?
I did not.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it's been, whoever
I'm
wants to
glad,
join.
Though. I'm kind of glad though.
This is and it's
just
a new
in terms of
yeah.
people making sure
It's a new
that
thing.
they are called to it and that they have time for it. A lot of people signed up
and dropped off.
And didn't end up fulfilling the full requirements just because they didn't have time for it. And I'm not saying that they were wrong or that they're not called to it, but it does take a certain amount of preparation and availability. That's no lie.
The Lord wouldn't even let me get a job. I had literally didn't have a job for 7 months because I was afraid to not be able to serve to the full capacity that I was
It's a
serving.
real thing.
And and I'm not saying I'm special, but I did commit.
Yeah.
And I submitted, and I hit the end of my strength, and I found the beginning of God's, which is funny because it's like, oh, dude,
So
this
powerful.
is just the beginning,
Yeah.
not even. So that being said, I talked about it in some of the podcasts that I felt a call when I was 10 years old to pastorship and preaching and all kinds of stuff, and I always thought it'd be 40 to 50. When I've actually figured life out.
When you're an old wise man.
I have a feeling that in the next few months, God and God alone is going to adjust some things in my life, my lifestyle, whatever. And that it's actually something I want to pursue. Not out of selfish gain, but out of, I guess, a little bit of a commissioning. A lot of commissioning by my pastors to be what they would consider a pillar of the church, a future builder. I'm obsessed with my church. I like it more than my gym. I like it more than my job. I like it more than my parents. I like it more than my future wife. This is the first time in my life.
You love it.
I love it. I could say that I love it, and I'm loved.
Yes.
It's the first thing ever that I've sacrificed for and give energy to that has actually turned around when I thought it was never going to happen and looked me in the eyes and said, we love you too. We love you more. We've always loved you.
It feels like it loves you at the very least.
Like a puppy.
As much as you love it.
Like a puppy. The more you love a puppy, the more it loves you. The more you love a dog, the more it loves you. You could never outlove a dog. You can never treat a dog better than it treats you. I mean, it's a weird concept, right?
I understand what you're saying because I grew up in a dog family.
I have a dog. Totally.
I don't. I just made that analogy
My
up.
nickname as a child was Yellow Puppy because I was on the floor with the dogs all the time. They're like, oh yeah, she crawls around on the floor with the dogs. She's like a dog.
You remind
Let's
me
call her
of
Yellow
Jess from
Puppy.
New Girl so much.
I
haven't seen that.
Literally,
oh my God.
Madison
Good.
says that a lot. I already said it. My best friend, she says that a lot, and I love that show. I do love New Girl quite a lot.
So
I'm
that
happy that.
being said, I told the whole church at graduation. I said, I always am trying to decide what I'm going to do. Am I going to move out of state? Am I going to play football? What am I going to do to earn my worth and to be happy and to whatever? And God just spoke to me and said, just go to summer camp. That's how this thing all started for me.
One step at a time.
So I believe summer camp is going to be amazing.
Yeah, it always is.
And I believe that I'm going to get a lot of guidance. For me, interns it's a 9-month program, but it really starts at camp. And I believe that it's a year program, or they say a 2-year program.
Yeah.
So if I start at camp to camp. I'm still in interns. I'm serving easier and better and more than I was the entire year. Because I'm not required to, and it's a habit now, and it's I didn't create it, but I submitted to a lifestyle, and at the end of the day, I can put aside myself and I can go and serve. It's crazy. It's not something I was born with. It's something I had to fight for.
It sounds hard, but it's honestly one of the best things about being in church. It kind of depends on what your spiritual gifting is, but for me personally, when I'm having a bad day, it's not so much that I want to serve, but when I get there, I realize that I was made for it, and I realize that it's helping me more than it's than the energy that I'm pouring into it is helping that.
It's unexplainable.
Whatever that communal thing is that we're working on. I work with the media team. That's what comes to mind first because it's the hardest. Working with kids is fun. I don't even consider it work. But, setting up sound equipment and hugging and lugging all this material around, that tends to be quite heavy and outside of my range. That is so rewarding for me. I get to take that home. That's my token of
gratitude.
I am capable. I am worthy. I am smart. I spent so much of my life feeling like I was an idiot because I didn't know how to adapt to our educational system. So when I do something like that I know, just from working with the team and seeing the work itself, it's like only a person who has mental capabilities could do this. That's another assurance for me. I'm like, wow, yes, okay, I am the person that God says that I am, and I can see it in my work, especially when I'm doing work for the kingdom.
It's ever growing.
Side note, but yes, when you're built to serve and when you serve to build, it is the most gratifying
that's
feeling
good.
that you'll ever experience.
Totally.
So
sex is good, but serving, oh man, that serving is so good.
And you can do it with anybody.
And you
at any time, you can serve anybody, not
you
sex
can
with
serve
anybody. I mean, you
anybody.
could, but that's probably
no,
not.
it's so true. And people, I think, like to
You
put it in
can't.
doxes that you can't serve anybody at any time. That's going to be
I
perceived
serve somebody all the time. Every day I serve
incorrectly,
people.
or
you should
or
serve
whatever.
the people that hurt
But
you
that's,
more.
That's one of those gray areas that it's like, no, you can literally, almost 90% of the time, not be doing the wrong thing when you choose to serve someone. There's almost no wrong way to do it.
Mm-hmm.
You're putting someone else's needs in front of your own, and it's pretty difficult. You would actually have to try to do it the wrong way.
Yeah.
Which is possible. I know people who have done it, but it's not for the faint of heart. So,
I think that the internship program really helps. My point of view, it helps to develop a type of servant leadership.
Yes.
Not a leader-servant, but a servant-leader.
Yes.
And there is a difference.
There is.
A server first, and then you lead later, right?
I'm so proud right now that that's the outsider of
that's what
That
you
is
got from
exactly
everything we
what it
I'm
is.
so proud because,
Dude.
yes,
I'm
I'm all
he
for
wants to
it.
high five you. He's trying to high five you.
Oh, you're high-fiving. I'm sorry. Okay. I missed it.
Yeah, she was.
I
she
was
a little
fist
into that
pumping
thought.
and he was
We
high-fiving.
were on the same thought.
we were fist pumping.
Yeah.
Tim.
Oh, wow. We
Let's
saved
hope
it.
that thing. No, I got water all over it.
No, you didn't.
I'll have to
Here,
blow
Tim,
dry
flip
it.
it.
I don't have
I'll have to blow dry it.
thingy.
It's all good. No worries.
Flipping it over help?
No.
We'll rice
No.
bag it.
It's whatever. It breaks.
I'm
It breaks.
sorry.
No, you're fine. That's me. I should have put a lid on it, but all right.
Let's put a lid on it.
Let's cap this.
Yeah.
Parker, thank you so much for your time for season 1.
Yeah.
I appreciated every single episode.
Yeah.
The time I get to spend with you is it's awesome. I learned tons from you. I think that you have so much more to offer than you actually think you do. I know that you have more to offer than you even think you do, but I know you know, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And as far as your future and the things that you're going to be doing and the influence that you have on others, that's important, and you exhibit such a leadership quality that is inviting, and it's warm and welcoming
And supernatural, to be honest.
It's very natural. Yeah. And so for you to pass the torch, for you to hand this off and to take this next step in your life, that is something that I am excited to see. I see you at the gym, and I see you all over the place. We talk. You're like my brother. But to see you grow in certain capacities where I see you struggle, and I've seen you struggle for years.
You see it, don't you?
I know it.
You see it.
Yeah, I see it, and I see a light, and I see so much opportunity for you that it's amazing, and I'm happy and proud to have had you be a part of my growth. Melody, I am so excited for you to take on the role. I think you are the perfect fit. This is a great dynamic. You're eloquent.
Thank you.
You're knowledgeable.
Ooh.
Yeah. And you question yourself. And
I do.
You too. And it's important too.
Yeah.
And for you to step into these shoes, having listened to our, the previous
big
episodes,
shoes to
they're big
fill.
shoes. Yeah. This guy,
Size 12.
I mean,
He's
yeah.
like a large person,
a big
literally,
dude.
but also a large person in personality.
Yeah. Yeah. He definitely, he leaves an imprint.
Yes.
And it's a good one.
Yeah.
And so I'm excited for season 2.
Me too.
And we'll go ahead and wrap this up. Everybody who's listening in, thanks so much for tuning in. This is season 1, episode 10, the last episode with
Yeah.
our boy Parker.
The concluding season.
The concluding of
Not
season
that
1.
it's the last we'll see of him, though.
No.
There
you're
could
not going to see
there
me
could
again.
quite possibly
We'll see
almost
again.
definitely
We'll see again.
be another
I'm
episode with Parker. So look forward to that. We love his personality, and we love the energy that he brings to the podcast. It is the essence that brought it into being. We love our DNA, and I'm so grateful that you think I'm a person that could fill those shoes. I'm so grateful. All honor to you guys, because you couldn't do it without him. He couldn't do it without you. I'm thankful for what you guys have started and invited me into being. And I can't wait for the next development. Season 2 is
awesome.
going to be
Totally different mix
insane.
up. And
Our next episode is going to be off the charts. If you maybe didn't vibe with everything that we just said, trust me, just hold out for the next episode. My girl Jade is going to be on the show, and she is the most loving but also hardcore person you've ever met. And the only way to know is to get to know her. You're gonna like her. I already know that you're gonna like her, and you already do like her. You know her, and I love her because I live with her. We literally share a room together,
Nice.
which I never thought I would be capable of because I'm an only child, and I love being an only child. So, yes, just look
Awesome.
forward to that.
Very cool. Make sure that you subscribe, everybody. Give us 5 stars. Pass the episode along. And do you want to pray, or do you want me to pray?
I would
Should I
love
pray
it.
on the last
Would you
episode?
bless us with a prayer?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. When you're ready.
Heavenly Father, we bow our heads before you today to give thanks for all the many blessings that you've bestowed upon us. We appreciate the time and the effort that these two have put into a show to provide knowledge and to be an influence for others who may be struggling in certain ways. Maybe they have sins that they are confused about, or they don't know the path or the direction that they're meant to be on. We ask that you provide some assistance to those people, that they will find that right path. And we also ask that that you look over those who have fallen off, who have seen the truth, and we ask that you provide them with some type of comfort and in knowing that there is help out there, and that there is love, and they are surrounded by people who have found you. And we ask that you take care of our family members and those that we love, that as they travel to and from wherever it is that they're going on this day and the next, that they will do so in safety. We ask you to provide us with the light that we need to continue on and to stay within your faith. And We say these things in the name of your Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Was that okay?
That was so good.
Thank you.
Oh my goodness.
That's a Mormon prayer. Not really. That's like your guys' prayer mixed in with a Mormon
that was
prayer.
a Tim prayer.
Thank you.
That was a Tim prayer.
That was a Testimonies with Tim.
Yeah, that was the only.
I feel
That's
so
the first prayer I've
good.
said in like 6 years, by the way.
I feel so good. Honestly, like, I'm telling you, that's why I was like,
Dog.
I will campaign for this episode. Like,
Yeah.
I was so pumped to record today. I was like, please,
It's a
Lord,
great
like,
show.
make it work out.
This is a perfect handoff. So, all right, everybody, we are
Amen.
signing off.
We love you.
We love you.
I don't even know you, and I love you. Just think about that. What that means.
Deuces. Goodbye.
Deuces. Amen. Goodbye.
Love you, New York.